Hey YouTube, Alex here, and in today's video I want to answer the question, how do I pick the right cafe for working? And before I get into this question, I want to ask you to do me a favor and give us a thumbs up if you like content like this. Definitely subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this. And let us know what you think down in the comments about the topic, if you agree or disagree. So with all that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get into my reasons here, and I have here, it looks like about 7 reasons for how I evaluate a certain cafe as my workspace of preference in a sort of remote location. Remote in the sense that it's different from my home country, different from my home city, not remote in the sense of geographically remote. So the first reason that is most important to me pretty much trumps every other reason is the idea that I want a place that's going to be relatively quiet. I can't focus in a noisy environment. I know that any decent coffee shop is going to have customers. They're going to have a number of customers, but I've noticed in many destinations, there tends to be a variety to choose from. So, as opposed to where I'm from, where there might be one good coffee shop in a given neighborhood, some of these neighborhoods that a lot of people that are working remotely, traveling, like to spend time in, they'll have, say, a half dozen choices. So, if you go to one location, you feel like, oh, this place is too busy, it's got too many people, or maybe it's just got a rowdy environment. Often you've got a number of other choices to try, and for me, I've never had to go to really more than one or two coffee shops to find a good place to work. So I usually find the one that I like the most, and then if that one's too busy, I can go to my backup. But typically, I haven't had the issue of my coffee shop of preference being too busy. I've always been able to find one, at least all the places I've been so far, that are conducive to me getting things done. I'll say that this is even more true in sort of the post-pandemic travel decline. You definitely notice that tourism-related businesses are having a harder time and they're catering to fewer tourists. And the tourists they do have, perhaps they don't have as much money to spend as they once would have had. I've noticed that if an environment is too rowdy, too distracting, I just can't get as much done. It's harder for me to get in the zone. Um, and I want to make the use of, make the most use of my time. So the next thing I'm going to talk about here is good food. For me, I'd like to eat somewhere where the food is good, the coffee is good. If I'm going to spend the sort of premium that you pay when you go to a coffee shop or a breakfast place, I definitely want the food to be good. Unfortunately, that's not been an issue either. I found good breakfast in every country I've been to so far and at reasonable prices, and often with strong internet. Not always with strong internet, depending on the country or location, but in many cases, it's common for me, regardless of country, to find a breakfast spot where I have breakfast, I have coffee, and I can spend 2 and 3 hours working on stuff there. Then usually I'll take a break for a while and go for a walk, and then go to the next spot and I'll get a cold beverage like a smoothie or a green juice and work for another several hours. I try to get something every couple hours. So if I'm going to stretch it into like a 4 or 5 hour thing, I try to get another thing halfway through. I want to make sure I support these businesses, especially during these challenging economic times. I feel really fortunate to be able to have a nice place to work. So I feel like it's the least I can do. So after good food, which I'm sure is important to most people, most of you, I really like good service. It's once again, this is another thing that seems pretty rare to not have good service, at least the places I've gone. But that's typically a big factor for me is making sure that the service, the people that work there are friendly and kind, and um, it's easy to have the things that I like to have there, like breakfast and coffee. And if I need more coffee, things like that are pleasant to refill on. The next factor that I'm going to talk about here is reasonable prices. I try to avoid paying Western prices for breakfast, even though it is possible to do so abroad, especially in capital cities. I'd say that's less so in the case in smaller second or third tier cities in a given country, but it's certainly possible in Bangkok, Phnom Penh, Manila, places like this to spend $10 to $20 on a breakfast. Now, typically that's going to be a really good breakfast, probably buffet style, pre-pandemic. Uh, the quality is going to be good. It's going to be a great experience, but certainly for most of us, we're not looking to spend quite that much on breakfast every day, nor do we want to eat that much food for breakfast every day. So for me, I like to aim to spend like $5 to $6 on a solid breakfast with coffee and juice. That may seem like a lot to some people, or that may seem like very little to others, but I find that that's the sweet spot for me to feel like, okay, I'm spending this much, so I feel like it's fair for me to spend several hours here working. I also tend to, if I'm spending that much, feel like the quality of the food is going to be good. It's going to be nutritious, uh, and I'm going to enjoy it and feel sustained for a long time. And then, of course, if the coffee comes with that, well, then I'm not having to buy a coffee separately, which is certainly going to cost, uh, especially over the course of months. So, like one off or a 1 week thing, it doesn't seem like a lot, but over the course of months, I like to know that I'm paying a reasonable price for good service, good food, it's quiet. The next factor, and this is going to vary in terms of importance. If you're an author, say writing a book, this may be less crucial than, say, if you're coaching people or uh, um, tutoring people on Zoom. But I look for cafes with strong, stable internet. I want to know that, for me anyway, a lot of what I do requires strong internet, especially uploading videos. So if a cafe doesn't have good internet, it just doesn't. It can't be on my list. It can't be a place that I'd strongly consider as being my primary work base. It just no matter what you do, if the internet's not good, I found it just is really hard to adjust to that. Like I said, unless you're in a specific field or line of work where the internet quality and speed is maybe less important, then you know a place could have every other factor in its favor in my mind. It could be quiet, have good food, good service, reasonable prices, but if it doesn't have good internet, it's going to just be kind of a downer. So uh, my last couple of points here I'm going to touch on. Uh, I want something that is close to accommodation. I want a cafe that is near where I'm staying. So within a 30-minute walk is acceptable. That's kind of what I'm at now here in Columbia is I walk about 25 minutes there, 25 minutes back. 15 minutes is preferable though to me or less just because I prefer to spend more time in the gym than walking. I love walking, but I find that it's easy for me to just get in the habit of wandering and perhaps not making the best use of my time. So for me, I like a cafe that's going to be close to where I live. I want to be able to get there really quick without having to cross tons of traffic or um, spend, you know, money on getting a cab to go there and back. It just these kinds of things add friction in my mind to the process, and it's important to reduce that to be successful in my mind long term. The final point that's my requirement is going to be I want convenient hours for working Monday through Saturday. I'm somewhat forgiving about being closed on Sunday, but even on Sunday, it's nice to be able to get some work done. It varies. I found that predominantly Christian or at one time Christian countries are more likely to have businesses being closed on Sunday. I found in, say, East Asia or Southeast Asia, it's less so the case. It just tends to be another day that people do stuff. So that's worth considering that if you're somebody that you need to be able to work on Sunday, perhaps you have clients or things that have to get on done on Sunday, that certain countries may it may be harder to get things done on Sunday than others, and that varies. And certainly, researching individual cities will be really helpful there. So I hope this has been helpful. I've covered some of the factors as to what I look for when it comes to picking a good cafe to work in. This is a sort of formula I use regardless of location in the world. I've used this here in Colombia. I've used this in Southeast Asia. I plan to use it in Europe. I look for a relatively quiet place. That's my most important thing. I'm easily distracted. I don't expect silence, but I don't want to be in a rowdy bar type environment. I like good food. I want it to be nutritious and sustain me throughout my day. Good service is awesome. It really just helps me like feel better and be positive. I like to pay reasonable prices. I'm not totally opposed to occasionally splurging on Western type prices for breakfast, but I find it's just really not necessary for me most of the time, and actually can be a hindrance if I overeat. The next thing is going to be strong internet. A lot of what I do, I have to have the internet. This is sort of a non-negotiable for me. This is going to be one of the most important things for I think for a lot of you all. So the final couple of points. I want something close to where I stay. I want to be able to get there quickly and get home quickly as needed. And finally, I need convenient hours. I need hours at the business where I can get a lot of work done and at my convenience. So I find that it's good to have a combination. Some places are more morning type places, other places are more evening type places. Anyway, I hope this has been helpful. If you enjoy this content, definitely give us a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this, and definitely let us know what you think down in the comments. I feel like these are some of the factors that I felt like were most important, but I think some of you guys and gals may have other things that you consider to be um, bigger and more important to you. So, anyway, I hope you guys and gals have a great week, and I will talk to you next time.